Hey gang, welcome to another episode of the Vintage Newbie. Ba ba ba. My name's Vernon Smith, aka the Vintage Newbie. Today, going to be doing something a little bit different. Instead of talking about the functions and features of whatever, I'm going to actually be walking through a bit of a disassembly and repair on the IMA Craig or IMA Craig PS-2000 clock radio cassette deck. Because like I've said in previous videos, and I might say later on in this video, I don't know, I've seen only 2 different videos on this one, and they don't really get into how to disassemble and change a belt on it, which when I was looking to learn how to disassemble and change a belt on it, I couldn't find any videos on that. So here will be a video on how to disassemble and change a belt on it. Okay? If you're expecting the normal witty banter, then I don't know what show you've been watching, because it's not this one. But anyway, yeah, it's going to be kind of boring and basic. So feel free to watch, feel free to skip, feel free to just use this as a tutorial for those of you that have a PS-2000 or similar type deck, because some of these had 8-track players in them. I think those might have been the PS-1000. I don't know. This is basically just a disassemble on how to get the thing apart from its case and get to the guts and glory of it. So without any further delay, let's hop on into it. But first, an awesome jingle that you'll hate.
He got into vintage audio a year ago, but there's a lot of things he still doesn't know, so he started up a channel on YouTube, and here he is now, the Vintage Newbie. Ba, ba, ba.
Alright gang, here we are with the IMA, or IMA stereo system. It's the IMA Craig PS-2000. Now, if you remember from an earlier video that I did earlier this year, which is why I said earlier, and I'll just say earlier again, earlier. When I first got this, the cassette deck, the radio, and the clock did not work. But I've recently been working on it, got the radio working, got the cassette deck working. Not so much the clock, but oh well. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I've cleaned up all the noise that was coming out of all these knobs here, which I can show you how to do that. Now, the main purpose of this is to show you how to disassemble it and also how to change a belt for the cassette deck. Because I've only seen 2 videos about this particular style of radio, and neither one of them gave a really detailed gave really detailed instructions on how to take it apart. So with a little bit of trial and error, I managed to finally get it. So I'm going to pass on that wisdom to you. Now what you will need is, and I will try to show this while working around a camera and a microphone, what you'll need is a Phillips head screwdriver, like a regular size one, and a kind of smaller size flathead screwdriver. The flathead is only for one particular part, and it's actually for the pitch adjustment behind the cassette bay. And you should also get a flashlight. I'll be using my old phone. So, alright, hopefully the volume doesn't change too drastically, as I will be moving the microphone in order to work around it. There are quite a few screws in the back, and usually whenever I take something apart, I just kind of put all those screws with whatever component I'm taking apart, so that hopefully that'll help me remember where to put it. You can also take pictures of stuff that you're about to unscrew, so you can look back at it as well. All right, here we go. first we're going to be taking apart the 5 screws back here. You don't need to worry about these 2 down here by the input jacks, just 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The screws are all the same size, but these 2 bottom ones have washers on them, so I keep those 2 there just because that's how it came. And also keep in mind on this one, there are 2 holes here, but the screws are there, there, and there. So check and see if yours are like that. And again, this is where taking a picture of it comes in handy as well, so you know the right spot, so you're not drilling into other particle board, unless maybe that's a backup in case you take these apart too much and it becomes stripped. Don't know. Haven't gotten to that point yet. Here's the part of the video where you can hum a tune to yourself to make the time go by. Maybe a little Do You Believe in Love by Huey Lewis and the News. Bad Time by Pat Benatar. Or no, by Joan Jett. Sorry, ladies. Or maybe just the My Little Pony theme song. Whatever you want. Or maybe this is a universal classic. Bop by Hanson. Yep. Now you got that stuck in your head. Alright, so this just pops right out. And like I said, which I did not do, put the screws into their appropriate holes. And then just put this piece aside. How's back there? Oh, back there works just great. Cool. Okay. Now the next piece will be these 4 screws in the front. Let me lift this up just a little bit to kind of show you. So there are these mounting brackets up there. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4 back there. You got that one right there, then one right there. This is kind of where you definitely want to be using a magnetic screwdriver, so you don't do something like that where I just drop the screw, because I'm trying to hold a light up at the same time. But I'll be able to get it out. Yeah. Maybe I should have had a mounted light so I wouldn't have to be doing this one-handed. That's too much like thinking there, buddy. Alright, try and get this out slowly. Yay. Feel like I've been magnetized. Now, hopefully, that one screw that I dropped, I'll be able to find once I get it taken out, because I haven't had that happen before while doing this. Especially because on the next step, I'm going to have to rotate the radio. So for the next step, we're going to turn the radio on its side and get to the screws from the bottom. So we're going to be getting these brass screws here, and then also the screws that are in the feet. Now, usually with screws that are in the feet on like stereo receivers, the feet will also come off. These do not. They might just be stuck on there because this thing is like 50 years old. But I didn't really mess with it. I just kind of left them on there. Just heard that screw drop. So I'm kind of keeping these in the back, and the ones that I took out of the inside front, I'm going to put in front of the radio so that I'll know that that's the screws for that, as opposed to the screws that will be going into these feet. Get this as quickly as possible to make this as less boring as possible. Maybe if I talk slower, that'll make you forget the tedium that you're watching. Alright, so now we're on the feet screws. And for the feet screws, I'll also be putting them next to those brass screws that I just took out. Oops. Nice elbow. So that I don't get the feet screws confused with the front bracket screws, since there are 4 of each. But for me, there's only 3 of each, because I lost one inside of the radio. But hopefully now I'll be able to find it, because with taking all that apart, now this comes out. Yay! But you can't pull this all the way out just yet, because the speaker is still connected to it. To where you can see. Right. So right there is a group of speaker wires connected into the circuit board. And the best way to disconnect it is by just sticking your hand in there and unplugging it. But since I am holding a light and a camera, I've got to use something else instead. So I'm going to be using a pair of needle nose pliers, but otherwise you can just stick your hand in there. There's plenty of room. And it just unplugs. And just plugs into those 4 pins right there. So now that that is unplugged, this will slide right out. Wood case comes right off. slides out over the power cable. And then you just jangle your camera around, knock your tripod over if you can. And then search for that missing screw. So I picked it up, moved it around, and saw that the screw fell right back there. Ta-da! So put that with the other 3 screws for the front brackets here. And now to get to the cassette bay, I'm going to remove these 2 screws. There's one up here, and then one right down there behind the wires. In a way that's at least semi-interesting and educational. Then underneath the top screw is what is referred to as the bottom screw. Once you've got those off, then you remove the power transduculator and the boardomatic brownulator or orangulator. Don't know what any of that really is, but it's connected to this thing, which also has to come off. This here appears to be some kind of shield. Normally there's a screw right there too, but somebody lost it during a previous disassembly. So you got this screw here, and normally that one too, and it pops right off, giving you the back of the tape bay now. So keep that screw in there, set it aside, keep these 2 screws in here, in there, since that is the piece that goes behind this. And that's connected by wires, so it just sits there. Alright, so now to get to the belt. This is where a tiny flathead comes in handy, but I think I put it under the radio when I was looking for, oh wait, no, here it is. Alright, so this screw right here that I'm going to be taking out actually controls the pitch. So if you tighten it all the way, thinking, oh yeah, I gotta tighten it all the way back on, then once you put everything back together and play it, it's going to sound really, really, really slow. It's going to be dragging. So this adjusts the pitch. Usually in a lot of tape decks, there's like a separate motor, and I thought that it was what this was because there's a screw in there that you could stick in. You could stick a flathead in there, and there's a screw that you can adjust, but it did not adjust the pitch. Because most normal larger tape decks, there's something on the motor that you can stick a small flathead in, and you can adjust the pitch to make it play faster or slower. But that comes from right here. So put it in, unscrew it, come out and grab the spring with it. Put that on the screw so you have that all together. Then here's the belt, which is a little loose, and it just comes off there, comes off that pulley. And there you go. Alright, so put the new belt on. The spring in. This is hard to do with the camera here, but alright. Put the spring in. Then the screw. Hopefully that's showing up right in there. Okay. Then start to tighten it to get it in. Now, at this point, what you want to do is put a tape in, a tape that you know the speed of if you don't have like an actual tone test tape, which one is, but if there's something that you pretty much know because you've listened to it like hundreds of times and you can just kind of go off it by ear, that's what you got to do. And since we disconnected the speaker, that's what was plugged into those little 4-pin things that we disconnected with the needle nose pliers. You're going to have to plug in headphones into the headphone jack. So I'm going to pause it. I'm going to do that because you wouldn't be able to hear it through the headphones anyway. And I'm going to put a tape in and I'm going to test and make sure that the pitch is correct. Wasn't that just the most exciting thing you've seen in the past however many minutes it took to watch that? Now, I did make another 10-minute follow-up video on the reassembly, but just do everything that you just watched in reverse and you should be good. If by some chance you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I guess I'll just post that video again of the reassembly, but hopefully not. Okay, well, thanks for hanging in there, and I hope you found this as informative as I would have. Have a blessed day. Why did I make that noise? You'll find out in a second.